Good evening aspirants, welcome to Daily News Analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 24 February 2024. Displayed here are the list of topics we are going to see today. Now let us get into the discussion. Now look at this editorial article from Hindu newspaper. See, there were a group of countries called Nordic Baltic 8 countries, shortly called as NB8 countries. So this group of countries recently participated in Raisina Dialogue, which is held in New Delhi. So this was their first high-level delegation outside Europe. So this emphasized their collective focus on cooperation and dialogue in facing the global challenges. So in this context, let us discuss about the Nordic Baltic 8 countries and the important points from the article. See, the NB8 is a group of countries which comprises 5 Nordic countries and 3 Baltic countries. The 5 Nordic countries are Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland and Iceland. So these 5 countries are called Nordic countries. And there are 3 Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia. So the group of these 5 Nordic countries and 3 Baltic countries were called NB8. Initially it was referred to as 5 plus 3 countries, but it evolved into NB8 in 2000 in a summit held in Denmark. Now this NB8 countries participated in Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi. In the Raisina Dialogue, they were stressing the importance of global cooperation and trust in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So the NB8 group advocates for peace, opposing aggression and upholding a rule-based order. The NB8 also highlighted the protective cooperation with India and rooted in shared democratic values and a commitment to multilateralism. So by participating in Raisina Dialogue, the NB8 countries seeks to strengthen its partnership with India. The main area of focus are on development, health, green transition, digitalization, peace and stability. So this topic is very important for our prelims examination and also for the mains examination. The map-based question on the bordering countries of Nordic countries, Baltic countries and the countries that border the Baltic Sea is very important for our prelims examination. So please take a note of it. Now let us move to the next news article discussion. So have a look at this article. It talks about a third-party application provider license which should be granted to 197 company. So the company has requested this license from NPCI. So in this context, let us discuss about the third-party application provider. So what is third-party application provider? Before discussing this concept, we have to understand 2 important concepts. That is payment aggregator and payment gateway. See, when a transaction takes place between a merchant and a customer, there has to be an intermediary between the merchant and customer, right? So that intermediary is the payment aggregator. For example, a payment aggregator like Amazon Pay or Google Pay exists already. Now the payment gateway is an application that provides technological infrastructure for the transaction of funds between merchant and customer. So the main difference between the payment aggregator and payment gateway is the payment aggregator handles the funds regarding the transaction, but payment gateway just provides the technological infrastructure. So in simple terms, a payment aggregator can also be a payment gateway, but payment gateway can only provide technological infrastructure and cannot function as payment aggregator. So now coming to the third-party application provider, which is also called third-party payment provider. So this is a type of payment aggregator. See, a payment aggregator can be 2 types. A banking payment aggregator and non-bank payment aggregator. So the banks in their day-to-day services provide the payment aggregator services also. But non-banking entities, when they have to offer the payment aggregator services, they have to get authorization from RBI. It has to be approved by NPCI, that is National Payments Corporation of India. See, when a transaction takes place between customer and merchant, it happens on UPI platform. So the UPI platform was designed for the transaction with the banking systems. So basically the transaction happen on UPI platform and between the banks. So here comes a third party who is ready to provide the technological infrastructure or the interface for the transaction. So this is called a third party payment providers or third party application providers. So they only provide the application or technological infrastructure for the transaction. But the original transaction takes place between the banks on the UPI platform. So this is the basis of third-party application provider concept. The examples of third-party application provider is Google Pay. See, Google Pay only provides the technological infrastructure or customer interface for the transaction. But the real funds are transacted between the banks and it happens on UPI platform. So here the Google Pay is a third party. So it's just an application provider. So this is why it is called third party application provider. And for acting like Google Pay, other entities should also get the third party application provider license from NPCI and it has to be authorized by RBI. So the authorization of third party application providers are managed by Payment and Settlement System Act 2007. So this is all we need to know about third party application providers. With this, let us conclude the discussion and move to the next news article. Look at this editorial article. It talks about the issues in Indian economy. See, the author points out that India's economy is not growing very healthy manner. As we all run behind GDP, but we are not focusing more on inclusivity and environmental sustainability. The author argues that the nation's economy cannot be determined by the size of its growth, but it should be decided based on the shape of the growth. This is the crux of the editorial article given here, and in this context, we are going to discuss about the issues in Indian economy through our mains answer writing approach. Now, before getting into the discussion, look at the syllabus. This topic comes under GS paper 3. Now, look at the mains question. See, there is a need for India to shift its economic growth paradigm from the current focus on increasing GDP to a more inclusive and environmentally sustainable model. Comment. So in this question, they have given a statement and asked us to comment on it. See, when the keyword is comment, we have to share our informed opinion on it and we have to substantiate with the evidences and data. So we are going to define the current economic growth paradigm in India, which is primarily focused on increasing GDP. In the introduction, we have to highlight the significance of economic growth in the country's development, but we should also acknowledge the challenges and consequences associated with this model. So let us start with the introduction. The introduction can be like, India has experienced significant economic growth in recent years. So our model of economic growth is increasing the GDP. While this approach has contributed to the development, it also has raised concerns about inclusivity and environmental sustainability. So in this way, we can link the three keywords in the question. That is, the model of increasing GDP and inclusivity and environmental sustainability. So we are going to focus about these three keywords in our answer. We can also say that according to IMF, India is world's 5th largest economy and it is about to overtake Japan to become the world's 3rd largest economy by 2030. Also, according to Global Hunger Index 2023, India was ranked 111 out of 125 countries, indicating a serious level of hunger. So these two reports are contrasting to each other. On one hand, our economy's GDP is growing at a higher rate, but there is also more poverty hiding in our country. So increase in GDP may not necessarily be transformed into economic development. So in this way, you can frame your own introduction. Now let us see the main body of the answer. So we are going to break down our answer into key points, each supported by evidence example. See, the current growth model, which is focusing on increasing the GDP, has resulted in economic disparities with the benefits disproportionately concentrated to certain sections of society. A shift towards inclusive growth ensures the benefits of economic development are distributed more equitably, which can reduce the social disparities. So this is very important. Now coming to the environmental sustainability, the rapid economic growth has been accompanied by environmental degradation. So this poses a long-term threats to ecosystems and human well-being. So we have to adopt more cleaner technologies and more renewable energy and conservation practices that prioritize ecological balance. So this is about inclusive growth and environmental sustainability. So our model of increasing GDP has resulted in the concentration of wealth in very few individuals or population of the country. But on the ground, the benefits of economic development have not penetrated into lower state of the people. For example, take up this data. According to World Inequality Report of 2022, India is among the most unequal countries in the world. See, the top 10% and top 1% of population holds 57% and 22% of total income of the country. On the other hand, the 50% of population is sharing the 13% of income. So this is how large the disparities in the economy. Then the increase in GDP often eclipses the other socio-economic issues in the society. For example, one such issue is unemployment. See, according to economic survey, India is one of the consistent growing economies as the GDP grew at 7.2% per year. But according to the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, India's unemployment rate was more than 7% for 2021 and 2022, and it also reached 7.9% in 2023. So this is much higher than global average and other emerging economies. So the unemployment rate is increasing very faster than the GDP growth rate. So a disease of jobless growth is sticking our economy and is affecting a large population of youth. So this is not a very good sign of our economic growth. Then if you look at this GDP growth model, GDP measures only the goods which are expressed in monetary terms. So many monetary exchanges which are crucial for life are not calculated in GDP growth. For example, the domestic services that are offered by women are often excluded in the calculation of GDP. So it not only accounts for underestimation of GDP, but it also ignores the role of women in productive activity. So in this way, the increasing GDP model does not care about the inclusive growth or inclusive development. In addition to this, our current economic model also ignores the environmental sustainability. So we have to align our economic growth with environmental issues. The government policies should be reoriented to prioritize inclusivity and sustainability and encouraging investments related to environmentally sustainable practices. The stakeholder participation, including the business communities, NGOs, is crucial for the success of this paradigm shift. So this emphasizes the collective responsibility of all actors and not just the government. Now we have finished the body part of the answer. Now coming to the conclusion part. In conclusion, the need for India to shift its economic growth paradigm from a singular focus on increasing GDP to more inclusive and environmentally sustainable model is important for long-term prosperity. So in order to achieve this economic paradigm shift, the active participation from all stakeholders is needed. So we should strive to balance our aim of becoming third largest economy with increasing per capita rural income, reducing the gender-based disparity and quality of life as mentioned in Sustainable Development Goals. So this will make India not only a developed nation but also a happy nation. In summary, we have to focus on economic development in addition to economic growth. So that's all about this discussion. Now let us move to the next news article. Look at this news article. The real interest rate of 2% was higher than required interest rate. This is said by a member of Monetary Policy Committee. He said that an excessively high interest rate can dampen the private sector capital expenditure, and this could lead to dampening of economic growth. So this is an important concern expressed by a member of Monetary Policy Committee. In this context, let us understand all the information about Monetary Policy Committee. See, this Monetary Policy Committee is a part of Reserve Bank of India. It is responsible for deciding benchmark policy interest rates, that is, the repo rates. This is used to control the inflation within certain level. So this is the important aim of Monetary Policy Committee. Now when it is created, the Monetary Policy Committee was created in 2015 based on agreement between Indian government and Reserve Bank of India. Before 2015, the monetary policy decisions were taken by RBI Governor himself. So after creating this committee, the monetary policy decisions became transparent and more accountable. Now let us see the functions of Monetary Policy Committee. See, the primary goal is to control the inflation at 4% with a standard deviation of 2%. Now let us see the constitution of Monetary Policy Committee. See, the committee consists of 6 members and the RBI Governor serves as the chairperson of the committee. A deputy governor of RBI and one official nominated by RBI is also part of committee. So on behalf of RBI, there were 3 members in Monetary Policy Committee, and on behalf of Indian government, there were another 3 members in the committee. So totally there were 6 members in the committee. The 3 government members are appointed by central government based on the recommendation of Search-cum-Selection Committee. See, the decision making in Monetary Policy Committee follows a majority vote. If there is a tie, then RBI governor has casting vote, which means his vote will be the deciding factor when there is a tie. Also note that the committee's decision is binding on RBI and it has to implement the recommended changes in policy rate. In order to ensure transparency, the decisions taken in Monetary Policy Committee meetings are published by RBI after 14 days. So the quorum of committee is minimum of 4 members. That is, a minimum of 4 members must be present in a monetary policy meeting. So in conclusion, Monetary Policy Committee plays a crucial role in determining the repo rate and maintaining price stability in India. So this is all about this topic. Now let us move to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this article. Yesterday, a spacecraft called Odysseus landed on Moon's South Pole region. This spacecraft was built by Intuitive Machines, which is a US-based private space company. This is the third moon landing event within this year. Firstly, Chandrayaan-3 landed on Moon's South Pole, and also Japan's SLIM spacecraft also landed on Moon's South Pole. So let us understand some important points mentioned in this article. Firstly, we should know about what is near side and far side of the moon. See, the moon's axis tilts about 1.5 degrees, and it is always the same side that is visible from Earth because the moon takes the same time to rotate about its own axis as it does to circle around the Earth. So every time we can see only the one side of the moon. So the other side of the moon, which we cannot see, is called the dark side, but it is technically called as the far side of the moon. Hope you understand what is near side and far side. The astronauts on Apollo 8 mission were the first humans to land on far side of the moon. See, landing on Moon's South Pole is particularly difficult due to the rugged terrain in the South Pole of the moon. It has limited sunlight, extreme temperature and communication challenges. So landing on Moon's South Pole is a very hard task. China's Chang'e 4 mission achieved the historic milestone of being the first spacecraft to successfully land on the far side of the moon, especially within the South Pole region. This landing occurred on January 3, 2019. This mission consisted of lander and a rover which conducted scientific experiments and observations. Following this, Chandrayaan-3 became the second mission to have a soft landing on the Moon's South Pole. The third successful mission was demonstrated by Japan's SLIM mission. Here the SLIM means Smart Lander for Investigating Moon. So now the US-based private space company has landed a spacecraft on Moon's South Pole. They also had a soft landing on the moon. So this is all about the discussion. Now let us move to the next topic. Look at this article. The Plasma Analyzer Package for Aditya payload, which is one of the payloads in Aditya L1 mission, has been functioning successfully and has collected many data. The advanced sensors in this payload have successfully detected the impact of coronal mass ejections. So this is the news. In our discussion, we shall see about coronal mass ejections for our prelims examination. See, the coronal mass ejections are large-scale eruptions of charged particles called plasma, and magnetic fields are emitted from the solar atmosphere into the space. So basically, the plasma and the magnetic field are emitted from the solar atmosphere. During coronal mass ejection, the sun releases various materials like electrons, protons, heavy ions, and as well as magnetic fields. In addition, this ejected material travels at high speed into the space. Because of this, they can disrupt a wide range of ground-based and space-based technologies and satellites on Earth. So this coronal mass ejection is very dangerous to the satellites and also to the electronic equipments on Earth. Now let us see the causes of coronal mass ejection. See, they are primarily caused by destabilization of Sun's magnetic field. They are often caused by disruption of magnetic loops around the Sun's surface. So this is about the basic information on coronal mass ejection. Now let us see its impacts on Earth. Firstly, the coronal mass ejection creates a magnetic field which interacts with the Earth's magnetic field, and this led to creation of geomagnetic storm. This geomagnetic storm can disrupt the satellite communications, navigation systems and power grids on Earth. Secondly, coronal mass ejections are the reasons for the creation of auroras. This coronal mass ejection will energize the particles in Earth's atmosphere and creates spectacular displays of northern and southern lights, which are called as auroras. Also know that coronal mass ejections can lead to radiation hazards in space. It means the astronauts in space or passengers on high altitude flights can be exposed to high level of radiation during coronal mass ejection event. So these are the impacts of coronal mass ejections on Earth. So we have come to the prelims practice question discussion. Look at the first question. Some suggest that India needs to move to an escrow based payment mechanism to ensure a fearless business environment in the country. Which of the following correctly describes an escrow account? The correct answer is option C, a third party bank account for safeguarding the seller from the risk of buyer defaulting on the payment to the seller after having received the goods or services. Now look at the second question. It is about Monetary Policy Committee. The Monetary Policy Committee consists of members from both the government and RBI. Yes, the statement is correct. The decisions of Monetary Policy Committee are binding and have to be implemented by RBI. Yes, this statement is also correct. The Monetary Policy Committee is responsible for fixing benchmark interest rate in India. Yes, this statement is also correct. So all the three statements are correct about Monetary Policy Committee. So the answer is option C, all three. Now look at the third question. The statement 1 says, only one side of the moon is visible to us on Earth. The statement 2 says, the moon moves around the Earth in about 27 days and takes exactly the same time to complete one spin. As we have seen in the discussion, we can always see only one side of the moon because the other side of the moon is not visible to us. So the statement 1 is correct. And the statement 2 is also correct and it describes why the statement 1 is correct. So the correct answer is option A. Both statement 1 and 2 are correct and the statement 2 is correct explanation for statement 1. So the reason for us to see only one side of the moon is because the moon takes the same time for its rotation and revolution around the Earth. And this is the quiz question for you today. Interested aspirants, post the correct option in the comment section. With this, we have come to the end of the discussion. If you like the video, please share it with your friends and don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.